So how do you develop an aggregate plan? Well, it takes a little bit of effort, to be honest. So let's dive into it. So developing an aggregate plan, we need to figure out if we have enough capacity to meet the expected demand through normal operations. If we do not, how can we most efficiently ramp up capacity to meet demand? If we meet demand, or I should say, if meeting demand is out of reach, at what level can we support marketing and sales? So that last one, if we can't reach what we think demand is, maybe we can back off marketing and sales a little bit, because we don't want them to overpromise, right? We want to underpromise and overdeliver. So let's do a quick overview here. So here's some aircraft. So we have commercial, defense, and then executive aircraft. So when we look at aircraft, when we look at categories such as commercial, defense, and executive, within categories, they're very similar. However, when we look across, they're not easy to compare. You know, if we're looking at a fighter jet, we can't really compare a fighter jet to a commercial airline or commercial airliner or even an executive jet. I mean, one size, two. I mean, one's meant for war, the other ones are meant for travel. So it's difficult to compare those. But, you know, we have these differences. So like the first one here, business versus commercial. Well, usually commercials are bigger. Commercial aircraft are bigger. I mean, if you look at the second row of pictures, you have the seating arrangements. They're pretty, I mean, commercial aircraft, they try to fit as many people as they can in there. Business aircraft, it's a little bit more luxurious, a little bit more room in there, and they could be the same aircraft. So if you look at the bottom set of pictures, you know, it could be, you can travel in style, or you can be packed in like a sardine can. You know, so there are these design differences, just like when we look at demand versus capacity. So the total number of planes required for each period is our demand. And then our capacity, total number of planes we can produce in each time period. So if you look at it, these three planes here, and then we have some numbers, 20, 30, 40, 40, 35, 42. So it doesn't say if this is demand or capacity, but we need to see if we can produce, if our capacity matches what our demand is. It's an okay thing if our capacity is higher than demand, because that means we can take more demand than we initially thought. But we can't increase capacity to meet demand, because that's capacity. You know, that's the total number we can produce in a time period. So we need to look into that. All right, so let's kind of do an example here. So this one's a little bit long, but you can kind of see the difference between two different ways here. We're going to look at the chase strategy and the level strategy of aggregate planning. So this is the scenario. Now we have our chart here, our demand forecast for X quadcopters line. So we have eToys is the company, operates 20 days per month with a single 8-hour shift. And they currently have 30 employees working on the quadcopter assembly line. And they pay each worker $15 an hour. On average, each worker can produce 10 units per shift, or 200 units per month. When they hire somebody, recruiting and administrative expenses are $1,000. Layoff costs, severance, and benefits are $3,000. So it costs eToys $10 per month to carry a unit of inventory. So this is them having it in their warehouse, not doing anything, just sitting there. Stockouts cost $30 per unit. So this is when they don't have any, they lose a $30 sale essentially. To assure quality, eToys does not allow the use of overtime or subcontracting. So that makes things easier. We don't have to factor in overtime or subcontractors. So let's look at these numbers based on the forecasted demand on the top here using the chase strategy. So we use our production capacity to meet our forecast exactly. It comes up to 54,000 for our forecast, and our production is 54,000. Overall, we need 250 workers in the total line. We're going to hire 50 workers throughout this time period, and we're going to lay off 60 workers throughout this time period. We're not going to have any ending inventory, and we're not going to have any back orders. So this is step one because we calculated all this out based on the previous slide's information. So this is the chase strategy. We're chasing demand. So that's why our forecast and our production numbers essentially match. So here's a summary of all our costs. Labor costs are going to cost $648,000. So that's 48,000 hours times 15 an hour. Hiring costs is $50,000. 50 hires by times $1,000 a hire. Our layoff costs $180,000. So we're going to lay off 60 people, and it's going to cost us $3,000 per person to do that. We're not holding any inventory, so it's zero. Back orders, no back orders, so it's zero. So total cost is $878,000. So we need to evaluate this plan. So one of these things is without holding any inventory, we will have stockouts if our demand exceeds our forecasts because we have nothing on the shelf. We're not producing anything extra. And then bringing on so many workers in such a short period of time might hurt quality. You can think of that as we don't have enough quality into the training because we're trying to train them so fast and get them out on the floor. The time to train them and the quality going into that training might suffer. And then laying off 60 workers after the 5th month is really going to hurt employee morale. So it was estimated about 250 employees over that 6-month period, and you're going to cut 60 of them. It's over 20% based on the numbers. So that's really cutting 20%. People are going to notice that. It's not like you're 1 or 2. It's going to hurt. So this was the chase strategy. Well, what about the level strategy? So we're using the same forecasting, but we're going to produce at 9,000 units per month. So we're going to overproduce some months and we're going to underproduce other months. So we're still going to produce the same number overall. 54,000 units is what the forecast is, and overall we're going to our production is going to be 54,000 units. So we're going to need 45 workers for this whole time period. We're only going to hire 15 in the beginning. And then our ending inventory, because at the end of every time period, we're going to have extra inventory sitting on hand. So that's going to cost us some money. And then back orders, because we didn't produce enough that month, is going to hurt us too. But how do these numbers fall together? So labor costs is the same, $648,000. That's 40,000 hours times 15 an hour. Hiring costs have gone down. They're $15,000 because we only hired 15 people at $1,000 an hour, or $1,000 per hire. Layoff costs, $0. We didn't fire anybody. So inventory holding costs. So we have the cost of $110,000 because we held 11,000 units, and it cost us $10 a unit to hold it. So this is inventory that rolled over from month to month. And then our back order costs. So these were when we didn't have anything to ship out to our customer. We had $0 in our warehouse to give out. So $150,000 is what that cost. So for 5,000 units in back order, It cost us $30 a unit for that. But the cost of the chase strategy was $878,000. That was the same cost as the chase strategy. So this is the level strategy. The chase strategy was, this came up to the same total. So how did this plan perform? So by avoiding layoffs, we can invest in a stronger, more productive organizational culture. I think that's a plus. Do you think that's a plus? And then incurring so many back orders could frustrate our customers, hurting our brand image. Well, that is definitely something that's concerning. We don't want our customers frustrated where they may start looking for some other product. We want them to buy our product, and we want to get our product to them. We want it in their hands so they can use it. So that's one of the downsides of this level strategy. So maybe we need to do some type of hybrid where we can plus up our workforce temporarily, maybe use subcontractors. That could be an option, or temporary workers. But we have to be smart about that. And there's many ways to consider that. So in our next video, we're going to talk about Enterprise Resource Planning, or ERP. So let's go ahead and move on to the next video.